My name is Dave Anderson, and I've been invisible for 15 years. Last Saturday, I got an email about the Wilson family reunion. 47 names on the guest list. My daughter Emma was there. My son Jake was there. But Dave Anderson wasn't. Because according to that list, Dave Anderson never existed. I stared at my phone in the parking lot of Anderson Auto Repair, the shop I built while working 3 jobs to send money to my kids. The same kids who think Dr. Michael Wilson is their father. For 15 years, I've wired $1,150 every month to their education fund. $285,000 total. Money that bought private school tuition, college degrees, and opportunities I could never provide. Money they don't know came from me. I had a choice. Drive home to Toledo and stay invisible, or drive 9 hours to Michigan and show up at a reunion where I didn't exist. I chose Michigan. Let me back up. Emma is 23 now. Law school graduate, works at a big firm in Detroit. Jake just turned 20, engineering student at University of Michigan. Both brilliant. Both successful. Both convinced I abandoned them when they were kids. That's the story they've been told. The truth is more complicated. I opened Anderson Auto Repair in 2010 with a $15,000 loan and a dream of giving my family stability. Back then, it was just me, Sarah, and 2 little kids in a rented duplex on Maple Street. Sarah worked nights at the hospital. I worked days under car hoods. We weren't rich, but we were happy. Sarah used to bring the kids to the shop after school. Emma would sit in my office chair, spinning around while I changed oil. Jake would hand me tools, even though he was only 5 and half the wrenches were bigger than his hands. "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to fix cars too," he'd say. "You can be anything you want," I'd tell him. "Anything at all." I meant it. The Wilson family lived in a different world. Linda Wilson was Sarah's older sister, successful lawyer, married to Dr. Michael Wilson, a cardiologist. They had the big house in Birmingham, the country club membership, the vacation home in Traverse City. When they visited our little shop, Michael would shake my hand with that careful grip rich people use when they're trying not to get dirty. Linda would smile and ask how the business was going, like she was talking to a child playing store. But Sarah loved them, and they loved her. The kids were fascinated by their aunt and uncle's lifestyle. Emma would come home from their house talking about the swimming pool, the 3-car garage, the housekeeper who made fresh cookies every day. "Uncle Michael has a Tesla," Jake announced one evening. "It drives itself." "That's nice," I said, looking up from the transmission I was rebuilding on our kitchen table. "He said maybe when I'm older he'll teach me to golf." Sarah caught my eye across the table. We both knew our kids were getting a taste of something we couldn't provide. I wasn't jealous. Not exactly. I was realistic. Every parent wants their children to have opportunities, better opportunities than they had. I grew up in foster care, aged out at 18 with nothing but a high school diploma and calloused hands. Sarah lost her parents young, raised herself and Linda on waitressing tips and scholarship money. We'd climbed as high as we could climb, but Michael and Linda? They could give Emma and Jake things I couldn't even dream of. Private schools, college funds, connections. A world where people like them belonged. I filed that thought away. I didn't know I'd need it so soon. On April 15, 2009, Sarah was driving home from her shift at St. Vincent's Hospital. A drunk driver ran a red light at the intersection of Monroe and Cherry. Sarah's car flipped 3 times. She died instantly. The drunk driver walked away with scratches. That night, sitting in the hospital waiting room with 2 confused, crying children, I realized everything had changed. Not just because Sarah was gone, though that broke something in me that still hasn't healed, but because I was now solely responsible for 2 kids who deserved better than what a grieving mechanic could give them. Linda and Michael showed up at the hospital within an hour. Linda held Emma while she cried. Michael sat with Jake, quietly explaining what death meant in words a 7-year-old could understand. They were good people. They were also rich people. And sometimes, if you love someone enough, those 2 things become the same thing. The Michigan estate sprawled across 15 acres of perfectly manicured lawn. Iron gates, brick pillars, a circular driveway that could park 20 cars. This wasn't just wealth. It was generational wealth. The kind that builds wings on hospitals and names them after your family. I pulled my 2003 Ford up to the guard station. The security guard looked about my age, probably a former cop working private security to supplement his pension. He had the weathered face of someone who'd worked outside his whole life. He smiled when I rolled down the window. "Good afternoon, sir. Name?" "Dave Anderson." He consulted his clipboard, flipping through several pages. The smile faded. "I'm sorry, sir, I don't see an Anderson on the guest list." "Try David Anderson." More flipping. "No David Anderson either. There must be some mistake. This is the Wilson family reunion, right?" Emma and Jake Wilson are my kids. The guard's expression shifted. Not hostile, but careful. Hold on, let me call up to the house. He stepped into the guard station and picked up a phone. Through the glass, I could see him talking, nodding, looking back at me through the window. The conversation lasted about 3 minutes. When he came back out, his face was apologetic but firm. Sir, I spoke with Mrs. Wilson. She says there's no Dave Anderson expected today. The Wilson children's father is Dr. Michael Wilson. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I'm their biological father, I said. I drove 9 hours from Toledo. I understand, sir, and I'm sorry for the confusion, but I have my instructions. I can't admit anyone who isn't on the authorized list. Behind the gates, I could see cars parked along the circular drive. A BMW, 2 Mercedes, a Lexus SUV. Probably 40 or 50 people were already there, celebrating 15 years of Wilson family success. Success that included my children. Children who'd been erased from their own history. Could you call again? Maybe there's been a misunderstanding. The guard looked uncomfortable. Sir, Mrs. Wilson was very clear. There is no misunderstanding. I sat in my truck for a moment, engine running, watching through the iron bars as my kids' lives continued without me. In the distance, I could see the back patio where tables were set up with white linens and flower arrangements. I caught a glimpse of someone in a navy dress. Could have been Emma, laughing at something someone said. She was happy. They were both happy. Maybe that was enough. All right, I told the guard. Thanks for your time. I'm sorry, sir. I really am. I believed him. I put the truck in reverse and backed away from the gates, but I didn't leave. Instead, I drove about a mile down the road and pulled into the parking lot of a Starbucks. I sat there for 20 minutes, drinking coffee I didn't want, trying to decide what to do next. My phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor in Toledo. How's the reunion going? I stared at the screen for a long time before typing back. Great. Another lie to add to the collection. The truth was, I had $300 in my checking account, a half tank of gas, and no plan. I'd driven 573 miles to see my children, and I was sitting in a corporate coffee shop instead. But something was bothering me about that guest list. I pulled out my phone and scrolled back to the email I'd received that morning. Wilson Family Reunion, updated guest list attached. Updated. That meant there had been a previous version. I thought about the last time I'd spoken to Emma. It was 6 months ago, when she'd called to tell me she'd passed the bar exam. The conversation lasted maybe 5 minutes, but she'd mentioned something about a family reunion. Uncle Michael's planning this big thing for the summer, she'd said. All the cousins, grandparents, everyone. She hadn't specifically uninvited me. So who had? I finished my coffee and made a decision. I wasn't going to crash the reunion. I wasn't going to make a scene or embarrass my kids. I wasn't going to show up uninvited and demand recognition. But I was going to find out who had decided I didn't exist. And why. I started the truck and drove back toward town. There was a Hampton Inn about 10 miles away. I'd get a room, make some calls, do some thinking. Because something wasn't adding up. The Dave Anderson who'd signed over custody 15 years ago had done it voluntarily, legally, with full disclosure and understanding. The Dave Anderson who'd been paying for his children's education for the past decade and a half had every right to be at that reunion. Someone had rewritten history, and I was going to find out who. Let me tell you what really happened after Sarah died. The funeral was on a Tuesday. 200 people packed into St. Mary's Catholic Church. Sarah's coworkers, neighbors, families from the kids' school, customers from the shop. Linda and Michael sat in the front pew with Emma and Jake, fielding condolences and handling arrangements. I sat behind them, numb and useless. After the service, while people gathered at the church hall for sandwiches and coffee, Linda pulled me aside. David, we need to talk. We found a quiet corner near the kitchen. The kids, she said. We need to think about what's best for them. They're staying with me, I said. I'm their father. Of course. But David, honestly, look at your situation. You're running a small business that barely breaks even. You're working 60 hours a week. The kids will be alone every day after school, every evening, every weekend you're trying to catch up. She wasn't wrong. Sarah helped, Linda continued. She was there when they got home from school. She helped with homework, made dinner, kept the household running. Without her, I'll figure it out. With what money? Daycare for Jake costs more than you probably make in a month. Emma needs tutoring in math. They both need clothes, food, medical care, activities. College isn't that far away. I'd been thinking the same things, but hearing them out loud made them real. What are you suggesting? Michael and I could help, temporarily, until you get back on your feet. Help how? Linda took a breath. The kids could stay with us during the week. You'd have them on weekends. They'd go to Birmingham Academy. It's one of the best private schools in the state. Michael has connections at University of Michigan. We could set up college funds. You want to take my children? We want to help your children. There's a difference. I looked across the room at Emma and Jake. They were sitting at a table with some cousins, picking at plates of food they weren't eating. They looked lost. They just lost their mother, I said. Exactly. They need stability, structure, security. They need their father. David, be honest. What can you give them that we can't? The question haunted me for weeks. I tried to make it work. I really did. I hired Mrs. Patterson from down the street to watch the kids after school. $50 a day I didn't have. Jake started having nightmares, crying for Sarah every night. Emma's grades dropped from A's to C's. She stopped talking to me, just nodded when I asked about her day. The shop was struggling too. Without Sarah's hospital income, I couldn't keep up with basic expenses. I was 3 months behind on rent, 2 months behind on the truck payment. One evening in June, I was rebuilding an engine in the garage behind our house while the kids watched TV inside. Jake came out around 9 o'clock. Dad? Yeah, buddy. Emma's crying again. I set down my wrench and went inside. Emma was on the couch, homework spread across the coffee table, tears streaming down her face. What's wrong, sweetheart? I can't do this math. Mom always helped me with math. I sat down next to her and looked at the worksheet. Pre-algebra, stuff I'd never learned. Let me see if I can figure it out. We spent an hour on 3 problems. I got 2 of them wrong. It's okay, Dad, Emma said. I'll ask Mrs. Patterson tomorrow. But Mrs. Patterson was 68 years old and hadn't done algebra since the Kennedy administration. That weekend, Linda called. How are they doing? Fine, I lied. David, Emma called me yesterday. She said she's having trouble with her homework. My stomach dropped. She what? She asked if I could help her with math. I told her to ask you first, but what? But she said you didn't know how to do it either. The shame was instant and complete. The offer still stands, Linda said gently. They could stay with us during the week. Birmingham Academy has tutoring programs, study groups, everything they need. You'd still see them every weekend. I need to think about it. Of course. But David, think about what they need, not what you want. I hung up and looked around our little house, the leaky faucet I couldn't afford to fix, the carpet stained from Jake's spilled juice boxes, the stack of unpaid bills on the kitchen counter. Then I thought about Linda and Michael's house, the quiet study where homework got done, the housekeeper who made fresh cookies, the swimming pool where kids could be kids instead of worrying about whether Dad could pay the electric bill. I thought about Emma's math homework. I thought about Jake's nightmares. I thought about Sarah and what she would want for our children. The decision took 3 more weeks. In July, I sat Emma and Jake down at our kitchen table and explained that they were going to live with Aunt Linda and Uncle Michael during the school year. Just for a little while, I said, while Dad gets the business running better. But we'll still see you? Emma asked. Every weekend, every holiday, every summer. Promise. I promise. Jake started crying. I don't want to leave. It's going to be good, I told him. You'll like Birmingham Academy. They have a really good science lab. What I didn't tell them was that I'd also agreed to let Linda and Michael adopt them legally, for their college applications, for their future, for opportunities that came with the Wilson name instead of the Anderson name. Linda had explained it gently. It's just paperwork, David. It doesn't change anything between you and the kids, but it opens doors, scholarships, connections, legacy admissions. Michael's father went to University of Michigan. His grandfather, too. That matters. I signed the papers on a Friday afternoon in August. That night, I sat in my empty house and cried for the first time since Sarah's funeral, but I didn't regret it. Not then. The Hampton Inn room smelled like industrial carpet cleaner and other people's regrets. I sat on the edge of the bed with my laptop open, staring at the Wilson Family Law website. Linda's professional headshot smiled back at me. Confident, successful, everything I'd never been. The About page listed her accomplishments: Michigan State Bar Association, Birmingham Chamber of Commerce, volunteer coordinator for several charities. At the bottom, a personal note. Linda is married to Dr. Michael Wilson and is proud mother to Emma and Jake Wilson. Proud mother. I closed the laptop. Outside my window, I could see the estate in the distance. Lights were on all over the property. The reunion was in full swing. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Anderson? This is Tom Rodriguez from First National Bank in Toledo. I'm calling about your business account. My stomach tightened. What about it? Sir, there's been some unusual activity. Large transfers going out over the past several years. Our fraud department flagged it for review. What kind of transfers? Monthly wire transfers. $1,500 every month for the past, let me see, 178 months. Almost 15 years, always to the same account. That's not fraud, I said. Those are payments I authorized. Sir, these transfers total over $260,000 from a business account that typically maintains a balance under $5,000. How were you able to make these payments? I hadn't thought about it from the bank's perspective. I worked extra jobs, cash work, and deposited the cash before each transfer? Yes. Sir, that's unusual. Most people in your situation would use those extra earnings for personal expenses. Rent, food, vehicle payments. These were personal expenses. A pause. Mr. Anderson, the receiving account belongs to something called the Wilson Education Trust. Are you familiar with this entity? My heart stopped. Can you tell me more about that account? Well, it's managed by Linda Wilson at Wilson Family Law. The beneficiaries are listed as Emma Wilson and Jake Wilson. College expenses, private school tuition, that sort of thing. And the money I sent. All of it went there. Yes, sir, every penny, plus interest and investment returns. The current balance is just over $425,000. I sat down heavily on the bed. Mr. Anderson? Are you still there? Yeah, I'm here. Is there anything suspicious about these transfers? Anything we should investigate? No, I said. No, there's nothing suspicious. After I hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time. $260,000. Every dollar I'd earned loading trucks on weekends. Every dollar from fixing cars in my driveway after hours. Every dollar from the second mortgage I'd taken on the house. All of it had gone to my children's education. Children who thought I'd abandoned them. Children whose father was taking credit for their success. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Emma's number. My finger hovered over the call button. What would I say? Hi, sweetheart. It's the deadbeat dad you haven't seen in 10 years. Guess what? I've been secretly paying for your entire life. I put the phone down. There had to be a better way. I opened my laptop again and pulled up Emma's LinkedIn profile. She worked at Brennan & Associates, a big law firm in Detroit. Her bio mentioned pro bono work with underprivileged students. Emma Wilson is passionate about ensuring equal access to education for all students, regardless of economic background. Ironic. I scrolled down to her recent activity. She'd posted about a scholarship fund investigation she was working on, something about tracking down anonymous donors to make sure the money was being used properly. An idea started forming. I pulled out my phone and called the bank back. First National Fraud Department, Tom Rodriguez speaking. Tom, this is Dave Anderson. We just spoke about the wire transfers. Yes, sir. What can I do for you? I need detailed records, every transfer I made, every date, every amount, going back 15 years. That's a lot of paperwork, sir. I'll pay for it. May I ask why you need this information? I looked out the window toward the estate lights. I think it's time my kids learned where their education money really came from. The bank records arrived by email Tuesday morning. 178 pages of wire transfer confirmations, each one documenting another month of sacrifice. November 2009, $1,150. December 2009, $1,150. January 2010, $1,150. Every month for 15 years. The routing number was always the same. Wilson Education Trust, managed by Linda Wilson, attorney at law. I printed every page. Then I drove to Detroit. Brennan and Associates occupied 3 floors of a glass tower downtown. The kind of building where people like Emma belonged, where they wore suits that cost more than I made in a month and solved problems with PowerPoint presentations instead of socket wrenches. The receptionist was polite but professional. I'm here to see Emma Wilson. Do you have an appointment? No, but tell her it's about the anonymous scholarship investigation she's working on. And you are? Dave Anderson. I have information about a Wilson Education Trust. The receptionist made a call. 30 seconds later, she hung up. Miss Wilson will see you. 32nd floor, conference room B. The elevator ride felt like the longest 90 seconds of my life. Emma was waiting in the conference room, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. She looked exactly like Sarah at 23. Same dark hair, same serious expression when she was concentrating. She was wearing a navy suit and holding a yellow legal pad. Professional, successful. Everything Linda and Michael had promised she could become. Mr. Anderson? Hi, Emma. She studied my face, and I could see the moment recognition hit. Dad? Yeah, it's me. She didn't move from behind the conference table. What are you doing here? I have information about your scholarship investigation. What kind of information? I set the stack of bank records on the table between us. The Wilson Education Trust has been receiving anonymous donations for 15 years. I think you should know where that money came from. Emma looked at the papers but didn't touch them. How do you know about the trust? Because I've been sending money to it every month since you were 8 years old. The words hung in the air between us. Emma's professional composure cracked slightly. That's impossible. Page 1, November 2009. $1,500 from Anderson Auto Repair business account to Wilson Education Trust. Page 2, December 2009. Same amount, same accounts? She picked up the first page and read it. This could be fake. Call your bank. Ask them to verify the routing numbers. Emma stared at the transfer confirmation for a long time. I don't understand. Mom and Dad said they said you couldn't support us. That's why the adoption was necessary. The adoption was necessary so you could have opportunities. The money was necessary so you could afford them. But where did you get this kind of money? You're a mechanic. I worked extra jobs, nights, weekends, loaded trucks at the shipping depot, fixed cars in people's driveways, took out a second mortgage on the house. Emma sat down slowly. You're saying you've been paying for our education this whole time? Yours and Jake's? Private school, college, living expenses? Everything the trust covered came from what I sent. But why didn't you tell us? Because the whole point was for you to succeed. If you'd known the money came from your deadbeat father, would it have felt like success? Emma looked through more pages. December 2010, March 2013, August 2017, page after page of consistent payments. My God, she whispered, this is real. All of it. But that means Mom and Dad have been lying to us for 15 years. Not lying, protecting. There's a difference. Emma's hands were shaking now. They let us believe you abandoned us. I did abandon you. I just didn't stop supporting you. That's not abandonment. She struggled for the word. That's sacrifice. Some fathers stay, others sacrifice. Emma looked up at me, and for the first time in 15 years, I saw my daughter instead of Linda Wilson's protege. Jake doesn't know. Nobody knows except you, me, and your bank. And Mom and Dad? Linda manages the trust. She knows where the money comes from. Emma's professional training kicked in. Show me the current balance. I handed her the final page, the trust summary from last week. $425,000, she read. Your money, yours and Jake's. Money you earned. Money I earned for you to spend. Emma was quiet for a long time, reading through the records. The reunion, she finally said. You weren't on the guest list. Nope, but you came anyway. I drove 9 hours to see my kids. Turns out my kids don't exist anymore. We exist. We didn't know. And now you do. Emma looked at me across the conference table, this successful young lawyer reviewing evidence of her father's secret devotion. What happens now? She asked. That's up to you. You don't owe me anything. You never did. But Jake should know? Maybe. That's not my decision to make. Emma gathered the papers into a neat stack. I need to think about this. Of course. And I need to talk to Mom and Dad. I'd expect you to. They're not bad people, Dad. They gave us everything. They gave you everything I couldn't give you. That was the plan. Emma walked me to the elevator. Dad? Yeah. Thank you. For the money, I mean. And for letting us go. I never let you go. I just stepped aside. The elevator doors closed between us, and I wondered if I'd done the right thing. But for the first time in 15 years, my daughter knew the truth. That had to count for something. Linda called me that night. David, we need to talk. I figured we would. Emma showed me the bank records. I think there's been a misunderstanding. About what? About our arrangement. About the trust. No misunderstanding, Linda. I've been paying for my kids' education. You've been managing the money. Pretty straightforward. David, you signed custody over to us. Legally, they're our children. Legally, yes. Financially, no. A pause. What do you want? I want them to know the truth. The truth about what? About who paid for their success. David, be reasonable. You disappeared from their lives 15 years ago. I stepped back. There's a difference. You haven't been to a single graduation, birthday party, or family event. Because I wasn't invited. Because you signed away your rights. I signed away custody so they could have better opportunities. I didn't sign away my love for them. Another pause, longer this time. What's this really about, David? Are you having financial problems? Do you need money? The question hit me like a slap. You think I'm here for money? I think you're a middle-aged man who's made some poor life choices, and now you're looking for a way to benefit from our success. Your success? Yes, our success. Michael and I raised those children. We fed them, clothed them, took them to doctor appointments, helped with homework, attended every school play and soccer game. With money I sent you. Money you were obligated to send. Child support. Child support. Linda, I sent you almost $300,000 over 15 years. How much child support does the state of Michigan require from a mechanic making $38,000 a year? Silence. I thought so. I continued. I wasn't paying child support. I was paying for my children's future. David, those children don't even remember you. Maybe not, but they remember the benefits of my sacrifice. Your sacrifice? You gave up custody to avoid responsibility. I gave up custody to give them opportunities. I took second jobs to pay for those opportunities. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment for 10 years so they could have college funds. No one asked you to do that. No one asked you to lie about where the money came from either. We didn't lie. We managed the trust according to its terms. And those terms said what? That the source of funding should be kept secret from the beneficiaries? The terms said the trust was for Emma and Jake's education and welfare, funded by anonymous donations, funded by contributions from various sources. Name one source other than me. Linda didn't answer. That's what I thought, I said. 15 years of lies, Linda. 15 years of letting my kids think I abandoned them while taking credit for the life I made possible. We never said the money came from us. You never said it didn't. David, what exactly do you want from us? I want you to stop erasing me from their lives. They're adults now. They can make their own decisions about relationships, with complete information, including who funded their education. And then what? You think they're going to welcome you back with open arms? You think everything will be forgiven? I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. Then why are you doing this? Because love doesn't keep receipts, Linda, but truth does. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. Michael wants to meet with you, she finally said. Why? To discuss this situation reasonably. What's to discuss? A way forward that protects everyone's interests. Whose interests are we protecting? The children's interests. They don't need their lives disrupted by ancient history. Their lives were built on that ancient history. David, please, just meet with us. One conversation. Where? Our house. Tomorrow evening. The same house where I wasn't welcome at the reunion? This is different. How? Because now we know you're not going away quietly. I thought about it. Fine. One conversation. 7 o'clock. I'll be there. After I hung up, I sat in my hotel room and wondered what Michael Wilson would have to say. The man who'd been called Dad by my children for 15 years. The man who'd taken credit for their success. The man who'd probably never changed a tire in his life, let alone worked 3 jobs to pay for someone else's kids. Tomorrow night, we'd finally meet as equals. Well, almost equals. He had my children's love, but I had the receipts. The Wilson house looked even more impressive at night. Landscape lighting highlighted every architectural detail, making it look like something from a magazine spread about gracious living. I parked behind a silver Mercedes in the circular driveway. Michael answered the door himself. He was tall, probably 6'2", with silver hair and the kind of tan that comes from weekend sailing. Everything about him screamed successful physician, from his polo shirt to his handshake to his smile that managed to be both welcoming and wary. David, thank you for coming. Dr. Wilson, please call me Michael. He led me through the foyer bigger than my entire living room, past family photos that told the story I'd missed. Emma at high school graduation, Jake at some kind of science fair, vacation pictures from Europe, skiing trips, formal family portraits. In every picture, Emma and Jake looked happy. That was worth something. Linda was waiting in the study, a book-lined room with leather chairs and the smell of expensive scotch. She looked nervous. David. Linda. Michael gestured to a chair. Can I get you something to drink? I'm good. We sat in a triangle like negotiators in a hostage situation. David, Michael began. Linda told me about your contribution to the Children's Education Fund. My contribution? The money you sent over the years. All the money, Michael. Not some of the money. All of it. Right. And we want you to know how much we appreciate that. I stared at him. Appreciate it? Child support can be irregular. The fact that you were so consistent, so reliable, that speaks well of your character. Child support? Well, what would you call it? I'd call it a father funding his children's future. Michael exchanged a glance with Linda. David, Linda said carefully, I think there may be some confusion about the financial arrangements. What kind of confusion? The trust received contributions from several sources over the years. Name them. Well, there was your monthly payment, of course. And? And Michael and I contributed as well. Michael nodded. Quite substantially, actually. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. How substantially? Well, the private school tuition alone was $40,000 a year per child, and college expenses, living costs, study abroad programs. How much did you contribute to the trust? Michael looked uncomfortable. David, this isn't a competition. How much? Linda pulled out a folder. Our contributions totaled approximately $600,000 over 15 years. The room went quiet. $600,000? Yes. Your money and my money went into the same trust. That's right. And the kids think all of it came from you. They know the money came from the trust, which they think you funded. Michael leaned forward. David, the important thing is that Emma and Jake had everything they needed. Does it really matter who gets credit? It matters if one person gets all the credit. No one's trying to take credit from you. Then why wasn't I at the reunion? That was a misunderstanding. Whose misunderstanding? Linda and Michael looked at each other again. David, Linda said, the truth is, we weren't sure how the children would react to seeing you. React how? They've built lives, identities, relationships based on certain assumptions, such as the assumption that Michael is their father. The words hung in the air. Michael is their father, I said slowly, in every way that matters. Exactly. But I'm their father, too. Biologically, yes, and financially. You were one source of financial support, the primary source. David, Michael said, let me ask you something. What do you want from this conversation? I want honesty. About what? About who made their success possible. Many people made their success possible. Teachers, coaches, mentors, family members who provided emotional support and guidance. And the man who paid for it. Money isn't everything, David. Says the man who didn't have to sacrifice to provide it. Michael's composure slipped slightly. I sacrificed plenty. Time, energy, emotional investment. I was at every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every sporting event. Where were you? Working 3 jobs to pay for those schools. That was your choice. To support my children? Yes, that was my choice. To stay away from their lives? That was also your choice. The room fell silent again. David, Linda said, what would you like to see happen now? I'd like Emma and Jake to know the truth. Which truth? That their education was funded by their biological father working extra jobs for 15 years. And then what? Then nothing. Then they can decide for themselves what that means. And if it disrupts their relationship with us, then maybe that relationship was built on false premises. Michael stood up. David, I'm going to be direct. Those children are happy, successful, and well-adjusted. They have a family, a support system, a sense of identity. What you're proposing could destroy all of that. I'm not proposing to destroy anything. I'm proposing to tell the truth. Sometimes truth is less important than peace, and sometimes peace is less important than integrity. Linda looked at me with something that might have been respect. You're not going to let this go, are you? No. Even if it hurts Emma and Jake? The truth doesn't hurt people, Linda. Lies do. Michael sat back down. What do you want from us? Nothing. I don't want your money, your house, your recognition, or your apology. Then what? I want you to stop erasing me. What does that mean? It means if Emma or Jake asks about their education funding, you tell them the truth. And if they don't ask, then you don't volunteer it. That's all. That's all. Linda and Michael looked at each other for a long moment. We can agree to that, Linda said finally. Good. But David? Yeah? If this backfires, if it hurts them or damages their well-being, that's on you. I can live with that. I stood to leave. David? Michael said. What? For what it's worth, you did the right thing, 15 years ago, letting them come to us. I know. And the financial support, it meant something. It made a difference. I know that too. Michael walked me to the door. Will we see you again? That's up to Emma and Jake. And if they choose not to, then I'll respect that choice. I drove back to the hotel with the windows down, breathing cool Michigan air. The truth was out there now. Whatever happened next was up to my children. Jake called me 3 days later. Dad? The word hit me like a physical blow. I hadn't heard it from him in 15 years. Yeah, Jake, it's me. Emma told me about the money. I was sitting in my office at the shop, surrounded by work orders and the smell of motor oil. It seemed like the wrong place for this conversation. What did she tell you? That you've been paying for our education this whole time. Yeah. Why didn't you ever say anything? Because the point wasn't for you to know. The point was for you to succeed. A long pause. Can I ask you something? Anything. Did you ever want to take us back after the adoption? The question I'd been dreading for 15 years. Every day. Then why didn't you? Because I loved you more than I wanted you. Another pause. Longer this time. I don't understand. When you love someone, Jake, really love them, you want what's best for them, even if what's best for them isn't best for you. But we could have figured it out. We could have stayed with you and still gone to good schools or whatever. With what money? I was making $28,000 a year when your mom died. Private school costs $40,000 a year. Math doesn't lie. So you worked extra jobs. I worked extra jobs to help pay for the life Linda and Michael could give you. I couldn't work extra jobs and raise you properly at the same time. Other people do it. Other people's kids don't get into University of Michigan engineering programs. Jake was quiet. Jake? Yeah, I'm here, just processing. Take your time. Emma wants to see you again, properly this time. Maybe dinner or something. What about you? I don't know yet. This is all pretty weird. I understand, but I want to understand something else. What's that? Why engineering? You're a mechanic. I figured you'd want me to be a mechanic too. I smiled. Remember when you were 5, you used to hand me tools in the shop? Vaguely. You always grabbed the right wrench on the first try. Even when there were 20 wrenches on the bench, you'd pick the exact one I needed. I did? Every time. And I thought, this kid sees how things fit together. That's not a mechanic's skill. That's an engineer's skill. So you wanted me to be an engineer? I wanted you to be whatever would make you happy. Engineering seemed like it might. It does. Make me happy, I mean. Good. Dad? Yeah? I'm sorry we didn't know. About the money. About the sacrifice. About everything. You don't have anything to be sorry for, Jake. You were kids. You believed what the adults told you. But we should have known. We should have figured it out. How? You were 8 years old when you went to live with Linda and Michael. What 8-year-old questions where education money comes from? I guess. Jake, listen to me. You and Emma have nothing to feel guilty about. You were children who needed stability and opportunity. You got both. That's all I ever wanted. But what about what you wanted? What about your life? You were my life, both of you. But you were alone. I was alone so you wouldn't have to be. Jake started crying, not sobbing, just quiet tears I could hear through the phone. I wish we'd known, he said. I wish we'd known you were still taking care of us. I never stopped taking care of you. I just did it from a distance. That must have been really hard. Some things are worth being hard for. Dad? Yeah? Can I come see you? Not for dinner or anything formal, just to see where you live, where you work, to see who you really are. You can come see me anytime you want. This weekend, I'll be here. Will you show me around the shop? Teach me some mechanic stuff? If you want. I want to understand where I came from. Before Linda and Michael, before the big house and private schools, I want to understand who my father is. I'm not that interesting, Jake. Maybe not, but you're my dad. After we hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, looking at the framed picture on my desk. Emma and Jake at ages 6 and 4, covered in grease from helping me change the oil in Sarah's car. They were smiling. They were happy. They were mine. For 15 years, I'd carried the weight of loving children who didn't know I existed. Now they knew. And somehow, that changed everything. I picked up the phone and called Emma. Hi, Dad. Hi, sweetheart. Jake called. I figured he would. He wants to visit this weekend. Good. He needs to see who you are. What about you? I know who you are. I've known since Tuesday. And I'm proud to be your daughter. The words broke something loose in my chest that had been locked up for 15 years. Thank you, I whispered. No, Dad. Thank you. For what? For loving us enough to let us go. I never let you go, Emma. I know. That's what makes it love. 6 months later, Jake transferred to University of Toledo. I want to be closer, he said. I want to learn about cars. Emma stayed in Detroit, but she calls every Sunday. She's dating a public defender now, someone who understands that success isn't always measured in dollars. Linda and Michael weren't happy about Jake's transfer. They thought he was throwing away opportunities. But they didn't fight it. Maybe they realized that some opportunities can't be bought. The Wilson Education Trust still exists. Emma and Jake decided to use the remaining funds to create scholarships for kids whose parents work multiple jobs to pay for their education. Anonymous scholarships. They understand the value of quiet sacrifice now. I still run Anderson Auto Repair, still fix cars, still work long hours,
Still live in the same small house. But now I have dinner with my kids once a week. Jake comes to the shop on Saturdays, learning to diagnose engine problems and replace brake pads. You know, he said last weekend, engineering and mechanics aren't that different. Both are about understanding how things work. And fixing them when they break, I added. Yeah, fixing them when they break. Emma brought her boyfriend to meet me last month. Nice kid. Wants to help people who can't afford good lawyers. Reminds me of someone who once wanted to help kids who couldn't afford good opportunities. He's not rich, Emma told me privately. Good, I said. Rich people don't understand sacrifice.
Is that why you never remarried? Because you were sacrificing for us? No, I never remarried because no one could replace your mother. But now? Now I'm old enough to know that some things don't need replacing. They just need honoring. The truth is, I'm happier now than I've been in 15 years. Not because my kids know about the money. That was never the point. I'm happy because they know about the love. Love that asks for nothing. Love that sacrifices quietly. Love that measures success, not in recognition, but in the happiness of people who matter more than your own life. That's what real love looks like. It doesn't keep receipts, but sometimes receipts find their way home anyway. If this story moved you, think about the quiet heroes in your own life. The people who sacrifice without asking for credit. The people who love you enough to step aside when stepping aside serves you better than staying. Thank them. Not because they need recognition, but because love should never go unwitnessed. Some fathers stay, others sacrifice. Both are love, both matter, both deserve to be remembered.